Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for sharing this wonderful moment with all of us. And before we start, I just want to say to Evelyn that I've heard a lot about you. You have been an advocate for a lot of people that are physically challenged, and I admire you for taking the challenge and to continue the good work that you have been doing for the Mass Transit Authority. Also, I just want to make a couple of administrative announcements. If you have a written testimony, you can say it in front of the table here. If you have verbal testimony, you can take your place up here. Also, when you make your testimony, please just make sure that your mic is on and you're close to the mic, so that because this thing is being recorded. Ronnie, I'm going to allow you to talk. My staff had informed me that you would like to be the first one to speak on our sister's behalf. And thank you very much.
Yes, Senator, but can I open up my notes first?
By the way, my name is Senator Pedo Terlaje. I chair the Mass Transit Authority. Go ahead, sir.
My notes, sorry.
If you let me just say a few words first.
I got it.
Good afternoon again, ladies and gentlemen. This public hearing is now called to order. The time is 3:05.
Ready?
The Committee on Public Safety, Border Safety, Military and Veterans Affairs, Mayor's Council of Guam, Infrastructure and Public Transit is conducting a confirmation hearing today on the appointment of Ms. Evelyn R. Dueñas to serve as member, Board of Directors, Guam Regional Transit Authority. For the records and in conformance with Section 8107 of Chapter 8, Title 5 GCA, the first public hearing notice was sent out on Wednesday, June 5th, 2019, to adhere to the 5 working days that is required of us to put it out. And the second public hearing adhering to the 48 hours notice was sent out on Tuesday, June 11, 2019. And in addition to that, this notice was sent out to all media and posted on the Guam Legislature's website. And I would like to thank you all for coming again. Go ahead, sir.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Sorry. Because I'm blind, I can't see, that's why. Good afternoon, Senators. My name is Rodney Kalimlim. I'm a person with multiple disabilities. The obvious one is blindness, and I also have, among other things, ESRD, CHF. After moving to the island in 2010, I've been taking the paratransit. And the paratransit is my life, is my lifeline, is my independence, that I depend on the transit taking me to where I need to go, most especially to my dialysis. So that's what's important to me with the transit. Just to start off, there are several people that sent in letters through emails and their testimonies that are not able to make it today. If you could please read their letters and their testimonies regarding today's confirmation hearing. As we all know, there are problems with the paratransit. And before I start, with the public, with anyone that is listening, please do not send any hate comments or do not harass any individuals that I mentioned today. Um, Ms. Evelyn, yes, she's very knowledgeable with the transit. And yes, she is a friend of mine, but when it comes to transit, it's a whole different story. Um, with the transit, there are problems. Yes, there are problems in the transit. But with some of the problems, it's created by Miss Evelyn. And sometimes she is the problem. I'm here to state what's right and what's wrong and what happens in the transit. So there was a couple of times where I get picked up after dialysis. And my pickup time from dialysis is at 9:30. Before they pick me up, they'll pick up Miss Evelyn. And she was living at Telefover at that time. With Miss Evelyn, when I always complained that I'd get picked up late, and mind you, my pickup is at 9:30. When I get picked up, it's past 10. It's maybe 9:45. It's past 10:15. And after dialysis, all I want to do is just go home. So it came a time where it's constantly always late. And then I found out why it's always late. It's because when they pick up Evelyn, she'll come out 10 minutes after her pickup time. So let's say her pickup time is at 8:10, she'll come out at 8:20, and she'll take her time, which makes the bus late. And when I had a conversation with her about the bus being picked up late, I was so hurt by her comment, which she said, "I don't care if the bus is late. It's not my problem. I'm not here to make friends." So I was kind of hurt by her comment to me is because she didn't care about those that go dialysis. And I just kept my mouth shut because I'm like, whoa, that's not right. And then several instances with Miss Evelyn, when I'm on the bus, we have conversations in the bus where she'd say, you know, some of these people, they think that they own the bus, that they could do what they want. But the same thing with Miss Evelyn. She wants like the bus to be for her own gain. She wants to be by herself in the bus. She wants to be by herself in the van. And there are several instances where I get picked up to go to shop for my necessities, but they'll pick her up before picking me up, and by the time I check on the time, my bus is late. And when they check with the driver, it's because the driver says, oh, Evelyn just got out now, and they gave her 18 minutes after her pickup time. 18 minutes. That's more than the allotted time for your pickup window time, which they give you 10 minutes after. But with Miss Evelyn, she uses all of the 10 minutes, and yet there's no consequences for using the whole 10 minutes. That's why she continues on to come out late for the bus, that it becomes late for everyone else that gets picked up after her. And another thing with what she does that I'm not able to do with the paratransit is she changes destinations that's not within the route. And I'll give you an example. If she's coming from her place of residence and she's going to Micronesia Mall, she wants to instead change it to a Ganya Shopping Center, which creates problems because if the driver has someone else to pick up close by the mall, they'll be late. But dispatch allows it. When I try to change my destinations, I can't. They won't allow it for me. But they allow it for Miss Evelyn, where she could change destinations that's not within the route. And sometimes I ask her about it, but she won't say anything about it. You know, and she gets preferable, how you call this, treatment where not everyone gets the same treatment as how she does. you know. So take for example some drivers. If she doesn't want a driver, without any justifications, so she doesn't want her driver to be picked up by her, but they'll send the driver that's supposed to pick me up to pick her up, and then that would allow that driver to pick me up late. And I can't do that same thing, you know. And another thing what she does is, if she is in the bus, she wants to be dropped off first before picking up anybody else or dropping off anybody else. She only wants to be alone. So I'll give you an example. She's staying at Georgia, and she was supposed to go to Pacific Star. She'd want to be dropped off at Pacific Star before the driver picks up anyone else. But the driver can't, because that would make him late to pick up everyone else. And what is so upsetting that I was told by the driver is, she would tell, several drivers already told me this, that she'll say, "Oh, you're lucky, you're one of the good drivers." What would she mean by that? You know, there's so many, but I'm only going to tell you what I experienced with Miss Evelyn that makes me upset, because she only wants it for herself, and she does not realize that it affects everyone else. And like what she told me, she doesn't care. And yes, she's been to the media and say she has a passion for improving services for the transit and the whole community. But what she does, it affects the community a whole different way. It's like she's only passionate for what she wants and not for the whole community. Because you could ask other patients, because other patients have told me from several of our support group meetings that they're late because of the pickup of a person who's in a wheelchair. And I said, "Who's that?" They're like, "We don't know her name." And I said, "Oh, okay. I think I already know who you're talking about." You know, it's creating problems with those that take the paratransit. And senators, I'd like to also have you guys talk to the service provider that provides the transit services for those with disabilities. Talk to the drivers most especially, because these drivers, they tell me everything that happens. I can't talk for the drivers, but I'm hoping that the drivers would want to say something, but they don't, because they're afraid that it will affect their job if they say something. They're afraid that their job as a driver, because they're the breadwinner. Evelyn has one where she could manipulate her report and say things that aren't true. And it was also said by those that work at GRTA office. I was told by those that work at GRT office, she was asking several things for them to do things for her, but they told her, if we do it for you, we have to do it for everyone. But she still wants to do it for them to do it for her. And she wants to improve services, and she has a passion to improve services for the community. But she makes the problems. That's why, there's other things that she does where it does become a hazard to not only the riders, but to herself and everyone else around her. That's why, yes, she's a friend, but I don't think she's ready to be a GRTA board member for this time, until she could show that she really has compassion, until she really can show that she really has the drive to really improve the services for everyone, not just for herself, but for everyone that takes the paratransit. Yes, she may show that she's compassionate and she has a drive to to improve services now, but you got to really see what's behind what she's showing right now. Because really, if you see how she is, if you talk to the drivers in a private setting, if you talk to the service provider in a private setting, if you talk to those at GRTA in a private setting, they'll let it all out. They'll tell you everything. They're telling me, but I can't speak for them. They could speak for, and they don't want to speak here. So because I wanted to, I also have a passion to have the services be improved with transit. I also do want the services to be improved because I've also made complaints. But my complaints are because of late buses and just that, late buses, late pickup, going to dialysis. But what she does is on a daily basis where she makes complaints. Complaints that are, when they do an investigation, it's not the whole truth. It's not the whole truth. You know, talk to the compliments, Brad, Bruce, Travis, and they'll let you know. And the thing with Evelyn, she'll make sure she'll get what she wants. You know, it's been, there's a lot of rules and regulations with the transit that she knows that she breaks, that she does not follow. But she gets away with it. She gets away with it. And there are times where there were other advisory groups that I was in. She can't hold back her anger. When she gets mad because she's not being followed. But maybe now she's showing right now that, yes, she has a passion. But really, after a while, there's several of us that take the transit that say that's not what really she wants. Because we all know as paratransit riders who have a disability how Evelyn is. All the drivers that drive the paratransit know how Evelyn is. Even the service provider know how Evelyn is. And those that work at GRTA. So before you confirm her as a board member, my dear senators, please check and talk to those that take Evelyn. Check and talk to those that deal with Evelyn on a daily basis with the transit. And I've sent you a recording with one of the meetings, the board member meetings that was sent to you. And it's been going around. And that was during a board member meeting. The words that came up from her mouth, the way how she acted as a person who wants to be a board member is very appalling. Is that how we really want a board member to act? Is that how we want a board member to talk to the chairwoman of the board? Is that a board member who we want how she talks to the executive director for GRTA? I mean, you have to be responsible for your actions and be accounted for. Apparently, Evelyn's been getting away with a lot of her actions. She's not being accounted for everything that she breaks with the rules of riding the transit. That's why there's problems with the transit. There's a lot. And I think I'm the only one here that has the guts to really come out and say the whole truth of what's been going on. You know, I can't see if there's any other person with disability here that would like to talk about it, but you know, it's really going to have an effect on those that ride the paratransit. Maybe you may not know now, but later on if she does. So yes, I am testifying against Evelyn being a GRTA board member. And I'd like to, but it's kind of long, so I'll leave it up to you. I do have the recording of that board meeting where she was very disruptive. She would not listen to stop. She would just keep rambling on, and they're trying to calm her down, but she couldn't. She wouldn't, not she couldn't, she wouldn't. Yeah, that's what I'd like to say. If I can play that, but if I have time to play that recording, if you would allow me to.
I've heard
Okay.
I've heard the recordings. Ronnie, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you.
The next in line is Maria Connolly, but I don't see her here. So maybe we'll go to Jane Flores. Thank you, Jane, for showing up.
Thank you, Senator. I actually have two testimonies. I'm here to read the testimony of Ginger Porter, who is an Assen resident who has known Miss Evelyn for a long time, and my own testimony. First, I will read Ginger's, if that's okay. Hafa-Day Chairman Jose Pedo Terlaje and members of the Committee on Public Transit. I have known Ms. Duenas since her high school years at Guam Community College and have seen her growth and development of transit knowledge since she took her first public transit ride while attending GCC. As a young woman in her teens, Evelyn started breaking barriers to independence and took on a responsibility that few persons her age would consider, managing a small transportation service for persons with disabilities, one which eventually merged into Guam Mass Transit as GMTA's complimentary paratransit service. Such was her initiation into the details of transit operations for scheduling, dispatch, equipment maintenance, and record keeping. Years later, she paired up with Mr. John Limtiaco, who held a contract for Guam Mass Transit Authority services, and under whom she committed 3 years in the Reservation Dispatch Center. Her GCC training in customer service and phone operations and etiquette was an essential service to the center. As time progressed, her skills expanded to understanding the scheduling processes of run cutting and consideration of dwell time, the time to board passengers. She eventually became engaged in problem solving for unpredicted schedule disruption. In 2005, Ms. Duenas was selected to participate as a rider representative to an Easter Seals Project Action mobility planning team. Aside from her introduction to transit professionals from Houston, New York, and Maryland, she had the opportunity to meet with Mr. Michael Winter, head of Federal Transit Administration's Office of Civil Rights. Mr. Winter, a wheelchair user, advised Ms. Duenas of the civil rights protection for users of transit services, confirming her intuition that Guam had a lot of changing to make services fully compliant. Mr. Winter's parting advice to Evelyn was, "If you don't do it, who will?" That moment changed Evelyn's life. That question has guided her ever since, through days of joy and days of frustration, even in days when she wanted to give up her quest for equality and efficiency in transit services. Evelyn began to meticulously document frequent problems to establish patterns of practice that provided barriers to equal access on transit, and subsequently filed a civil rights complaint to the FTA. Ms. Duenas understood that complaints are issues brought forward for resolution, and that they provide the necessary information to make improvement. Guided by Mr. Winter's advice, her efforts brought forth an ADA compliance review in 2010, which resolved a portion of the identified problems. Moreover, repeated limitations of equal access still remain. More recently, she filed complaints to FTA and began talking to the OCR officials in Washington, D.C. and in Region 9. They encouraged her to continue addressing the issues. As of this date, those FTA officials welcome her nomination to the board. She now comes before you as a potential member of the Guam Regional Transit Authority Board. Evelyn brings forth years of developing transit knowledge as a rider and as a participant in managing transit services. She represents the ridership, not just those who need physical access, but those who do not drive, who cannot drive, or who choose not to drive. She represents the operators who relate their daily concerns, concerns that often receive little remedy. She is a person engaged in transit training and has acquired national certification in passenger assistance and safety. She provides guidance on a myriad of transit issues gained through years of exposure, experience, and reading. Ms. Duenas is aware of many of the current needs of transit: equipment acquisition and maintenance, transit operations, certified training, and accessibility for persons with disabilities and those needing language and other than English. She is acutely aware of shortcomings based on reports of the Office of the Public Auditor, the Office of the Inspector General, a recent estate management review, and the ADA Complementary Paratransit Service Compliance Review of 2010. You can be assured that Ms. Duenas will address the shortcomings of GRTA service at the board table. She will likely be the most vocal member of daily services which she uses each and every day, exempting no service days of Sundays and holidays. There is no better perspective than one from a rider who has educated herself in the details of transit services. You can also be assured that she will address finance, future service design, and systems that coordinate and improve transportation services to our community. I take great pleasure in providing my highest recommendation for Ms. Evelyn Duenas' appointment to the Guam Regional Transit Authority Board. I sincerely request your vote of confidence for her position on the board. Respectfully, Ginger S. Porter, M.E.D., resident of Assen.
Thank you very much, Jane.
Okay, and now my own testimony.
You have one too, right? You have your own testimony?
Yes, I have my own too. Yeah, it's not so long, so don't worry. Hafaday Senator Terlaje and committee members. The Bureau of Women's Affairs of the Government of Guam proudly submits this letter in support of the appointment of Ms. Evelyn R. Duenas as a member of the Board of Directors of the Guam Regional Transit Authority. I first became acquainted with Evelyn when she was a student at the Guam Community College, where I served as Assistant Director of Communications and Promotions for over 9 years. As a student, Evelyn was very active and persistent in her quest to make sure that GCC remained compliant with accessibility requirements. She is a passionate, intelligent advocate for persons with disabilities. Evelyn describes herself as assertive, and that is the perfect quality for a person who represents a population that is often marginalized. The GRTA board should not only welcome her perspective, board members should embrace it because Evelyn represents a majority of the GRTA rider clientele. As a customer on GRTA buses for over 3 decades, her assessment of GRTA's services will be invaluable to making the system better, more reliable, and more in tune with the requirements of all of its patrons. I am sure that this is a main goal of the GRTA board. Si Jus Masi for the opportunity to submit this testimony, very much in favor of the appointment of Ms. Evelyn R. Duenas as a member of the GRTA Board of Directors.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you very much. Before I call on to our sister, let me recognize the incoming General Manager for the Guam Transit Authority. And I guess, Shell, you want to testify also? Okay, you can come up. Before I ask the principal to give us her testimony. Thank you very much, Shell.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to convey to you the fact that Mr. Kalimlim and Ms. Evelyn Duenas are both excellent paratransit riders of the Guam Regional Transit Authority. Both of them are real good friends of mine, and certainly I work with them very well. Hafaday, Mr. Chairman, Terlaje. Mr. Chairman and Senators, Wendangkulinas Izusum Asi, for allowing me to testify for the nomination of Ms. Evelyn Duenas. My name is Celestine Cruz Bebauta, and I am the Interim Executive Manager for the Guam Regional Transit Authority. Mr. Chairman and Senators, I am providing my testimony in the following format: GRTA's historical perspective, a need for functioning board, and Governor Lilong Guerrero's nomination of Evelyn Duenas to be a member of the GRTA board. It is important that I do my presentation in this regard so that the legislature will have relevant information that will help in making objective decision relative to Ms. Duenas' nomination. On March 13, 2009, former Governor Felix Camacho signed into law Bill number 37 that later became Public Law 30-5. Since then until my occupancy in mid-January 2019, GRTA is still homeless, and at that time only has 8 vans and buses operating. 23 vans and buses were purchased in 2015 with federal funds that were made available in 2008 and 2009. In January 2017, the vehicles were turned over to the contractor for usage and made to operate without consistent maintenance until September 2018, when a contract was initiated. Consequently, many of the vehicles were non-operational, and on some occasions, only one was on the road. So there it is, Mr. Chairman and Senators of the 35th Guam Legislature. From 2009 until now, 10 years later, GRTA is still without facility, and also we only have 13 buses operating at this time. But we go fast forward to 2019, June 2019. 13 vehicles are currently functional. Procurement package to purchase 10 buses at $1,083,000 is currently at GSA. The first phase of a multi-step bid to buy one-click transportation management system at $142,000 is at GSA. GRTA is still waiting for Bill 4235 to become law so that it can start architecture and engineering design for a facility, and when that is done, GRTA has $2.5 million to build a permanent facility that will house maintenance, bus operations, administration, and one-click transportation system. All of this programmed without a GRT board. These funds all came from the Federal Transit Administration. Nonetheless, the work environment at GRT has been very challenging for my staff and me. So there it is, Mr. Chairman and members of the legislature. All of these initiatives have been programmed within 4 months of the Leon Guerrero Tenorio administration without a functioning board. So imagine when GRTA has a functioning board, much more will be accomplished. Chairman Luis Rivera, along with members of Vice Mayor Benavente and Mr. David Arantz, have been supportive. With a quorum, I'm quite sure that the board members will also focus on having GRTA begin addressing the mandates of Public Law 30-5. Public parking is one initiative that I believe GRTA must work on so that funds derived may be used to further improve the island's transit system. Governor Lilong Guerrero and Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio nominated Ms. Duenas because she is knowledgeable in the operations of the transit system and a true advocate of the paratransit population. In May of this year, I had a medical appointment at San Francisco and spent a few days in the area. 2 of those days on my own time, I spent at the Federal Transit Administration to discuss federal funds that are currently within Governor Guam. And I also inquired about fiscal year 18 and 19 federal funds, as well as right denials that currently exist in Guam for paratransit passengers. One discussion that was brought up to my attention is the fact that Civil Rights Officer, currently Lynette Little, stated that an individual who has been a paratransit advocate at the federal level is Ms. Evelyn Duenas. Mr. Chairman and Senators, I ask that all of you give Ms. Duenas an objective look to become a member of the GRT board. She is knowledgeable, an advocate, and recognized as a strong representative of paratransit riders at the federal level. She has made some disturbing remarks in the past, but who in this room have lived a perfect life? If anyone have been without a mistaken life, please stand up and be recognized. Mr. Chairman, GRTA is capable of doing more to meet the transportation needs of Guam's population, its visitors, and the mandates of Public Law 30-5. However, it needs a functional board. I ask that you afford Ms. Duenas a fair and objective opportunity to become a GRT board member. Mr. Chairman and Senators, once again, I greatly appreciate the opportunity to come before this august body to convey my sentiments regarding Ms. Duenas' nomination. Sinceramente, Celestine Cruz Bebauta, Interim Executive Manager of GRTA. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Babauta. I'm going to allow our principal to go ahead and do her testimony, and then I'll do my comments after her. Thank you, Evelyn.
You're welcome. Thank you, too, Senator. Half-a-day Chairperson Jose Pedo Terlaje and members of the Committee on Public Transit. I am Evelyn Duenas, a rider of the Guam Public Transit Service for 35 years. At the age of 16, I managed a transportation services for the nonprofit organization Western Pacific Association of the Disabled, where I supervised up to 5 drivers and served 3 years as a volunteer in the Transit Dispatch Center at Fleet Services. In 2005, I participated in Easter Sales Project Action Mobility Planning Institute in Washington, D.C., as well as the technical assistance conducted on Guam provided by Mr. Arturo Jackson of Houston Metro Lift. I served 3 years as Vice President on the Guam Transportation Commission for the Public Transportation Division, Department of Administration. I later achieved certification by the Transportation Association of America for passenger safety and service. I have communicated the problems of our transit system with all our local policymakers and with the FDA Office of Civil Rights in Washington, D.C. In 2005, I met with the former FDA Director, Office of Civil Rights, Mr. Michael Winter, who urged me to continue advocating for accessible transportation services. I now communicate with Ms. Mary Beth Maneker at the FDA Office of Civil Rights. I will commit to faithfully perform the duties and fiduciary responsibilities as a GRTA board member. I am willing to bring accountability of management to repair our crippled public bus services and address access issues as promised by the American with Disabilities Act of 1992 and Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973. I have the interest to improve transportation services for the public. This is a service that, though through years of ridership experience, I know to be an essential connection to all life's needs, connection to social networks, access to medical services, attaining to retaining employment, contributing to social policies and practice, recreational activities, and participating in community activities. After many years of service in the government of Guam, I understand the proper processes that are required for accountability, such as the Freedom of Information Act, the Mini-Hatch Act, the processes of procurement. I listen to the needs of other riders, and I am not afraid to insist that their service problems are resolved. Sample issues needing attention are: 1. Assistance to passengers injured on GRTA service; 2. Appropriate attitude and action on GRTA towards riders and the public; 3. Collaboration with other government officials; 4. Improving of on-time performance; 5. Ensuring that GRTA has backup vehicles; 6. Reduction of vehicle safety problems; 7. Compliance with vehicle safety inspection requirements; 8. Improving the ability to obtain riders in accordance with Federal Transit Administration and ADA guidelines; and 9. Improving the response and resolution of ridership complaints, which is a local and federal requirement. I will ensure that there will be a written documentation as follow-up to the public concerns, interests, and feedbacks from their input. Drivers also need written documentation of agency support in regards to their issues, schedules, feedback on ridership concerns, safety, and requests for repairs. I remain concerned of the audit conducted by the Office of the Public Auditor regarding the GRTA billing and invoices for services. I would like to see it brought to closure with corrective measures in regards to application of federal funds and a major concern for transit. I will request a review update of the board bylaws, request policy development to reduce cost of disability certification for paratransit applicants, attend legislative hearings that pertain to the agency, and promote opportunities for the board to collaboratively build direction for GRTA. Training is currently needed for operators and personnel who work directly with riders, with the ridership. Guam law requirements include 16 hours of passenger assistant training. I will recommend that the board only accept training that is nationally recognized by the transit industry and that the trainers are certified to conduct the training. 4 hours of refresher training in passenger assistance must be conducted annually. This is for the passenger safety and appropriate customer service. When I reviewed the Office of Inspector General's report of the Guam Mass Transit Authority, March of 1997, I found that GRTA has been repeating some of the same problematic issues. I quote the report as follows. We also found that the authority issued contract in which contractors were compensated on a cost plus percentage of costs issued, incurred and paid before contracts were approved. 3, contracts to companies that employ immediate family members of the authority. Procurement office officials and 5 did not comply with the staffing level authority by the legislative. In addition, the authority had not ensured that one contractor's invoice included only contract support costs that were in compliance with contract terms. 2, contractors' costs were within their approved budget. And 3, the maintenance and repair contractor maintained an adequate number of buses to meet the authority's service needs. These conditions occurred because of the authority had not developed and implemented procurement and contract oversight procedures. In addition, the former board of directors had not provided adequate oversight control over the authority's management. As a result, during fiscal years 1993, 1994, and 95, the authority incurred question cost of about $5 million. The board must redirect the agency and its services. I have been active with many of these issues since the 29th Guam legislature and feel that I can come up with board solutions to many of these current problems. Thank you for the opportunity to meet with you, and I appreciate your consideration to confirm my appointment. Evelyn R. Duenas, GRTA Writer.
This is Marcy Evelyn.
Thank you.
You know, I want to balance the testimony here today because there's some kind of disturbing incidents regarding Evelyn's performance in as far as getting what she wants. And I think it only has to do with her mindset. And I think that could be remediated. Okukaw fafesino Evelyn, nay? No. In mas donkulo, the most important thing that we do in our lifetime and in our working environment is respeto, fana respeta. Utungo siya na tao. And I really appreciate your testimony because your testimony is centered around the problems of management. And the testimony that was given by Ronnie, and I appreciate that too, Ronnie, because her mindset in as far as trying to get what she wants. Do lilikuna kumuman akfamuli kamjunay, lekuna if respect is within your minds, I think everything here can be resolved. And I like the way that Evelyn comes out with the issues on some of the problems that we have in as far as purchasing and all that. Simply be, Evelyn, I'm going to be looking out for you, and I'm going to be asking you, if we approve this, promise me that you will use that respect. And I'll tell the other board members to work together because that's the only way that you can solve personal problems. That's the only way that you can solve managerial problems. Pues ejo fafesin amjuno haugu nai Evelyn. Ejo fafesino nai. So tungwa nai I've heard that you do have a temper. Jajangin na laluo nai. Esta malagoma pun apagiji karate pun pandumua nai. Lo utungwa wa Evelyn na you meant what you say when you see problems And I've heard and I've written a lot of good written testimony about your capabilities in as far as knowing the functions of the Mass Transit Authority. And I give you a whole lot of credit. Bago na si Ronnie. Ronnie, you know that you talk about the personality of Evelyn. So that can be resolved. That can be, remediated. Okuka, that's what I'm asking here. Is for the board members to respect one another. And I will get with the manager to outline some of the things that Evelyn mentioned in as far as the mistakes that is being done as far as purchasing. And remember, Shell, I talked to you about some of the past issues regarding turning in vehicles to AK, and you don't have a master mechanic to assess, and then the bills come to the manager, and they have to pay for it. And there's mentioning about, and Evelyn mentioned this, that some of the procurement was paid out before even the work is done. So, I get that. And I know, Shell, you're going to take care of that. You've been in transportation for the longest time. And I know you're a perfect manager for mass transit. And I know you resolve all the problems that we have. And with that, I want to thank each and every one of you for being with us here this afternoon. Is there anybody else that wants to testify? I guess not. There's nobody else other than Mr. Calvo back there. I don't know. In closing, I'd like to thank all of you for your participation in today's confirmation hearing on Ms. Evelyn R. Duenas. Dr. Talafofo, no, Evelyn?
Originally, Taltazonia, but I'm still there. I'm now residing in Talapopo.
I know your family, Evelyn. We're somewhat,
and so do I.
We're somewhat close
Yes,
bloodline.
but kita low-key there.
All right.
But I do give you my word that when I get on board, I will, of course, work with everyone and try to just get transit to where it needs to be, because I know that you've heard before that upon this day, and even Mr. Babata is aware, that we are currently supposed to have 50 vehicles running on the road, but we're not close to that yet.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to work diligently to try to put the current fleet that we have on supposedly running on the road, and the additional 10 new vehicles that Mr. Babauta said is well on the way. So teamwork is going to proceed with
That's
this
the only way
board
that work can be done. Teamwork.
and respect to
Ani
one
respeto
another.
na. Fan
Yes.
respeto ang buit and
So-
check mano na tsoso necessario para cumplir na
Okay.
obligasyon ta, no?
Ti lateo nenong respeto and
I love you,
Support
Evelyn.
taking
Thank
it
you. Anyway, if there's anybody else that have written testimony, or you can email me at Senator Pedo at senatorjpterlaje.com. And my address, usually I come up with the address, but people call me at the office and say, hey, where's your address? Where's your office? So better yet, this is what I'm going to say. When you go out, you see the police station down in Nagana. You pass the post office, the yellow building where it says Hava Java. I'm on the second floor on the north side. So thank you very much. The time is currently 3:55. And the Committee on Public Safety, Border Safety, Military and Veterans Affairs, Mayor's Council of Guam, Infrastructure and Public Transit is now adjourned. Thank you, Manilo. Thank you very much. Jane, thank you.